Beau Hossler, 3 under 67. Beau, talk us through that last shot. Good way to go into the weekend.
Yeah, it was amazing. Number 9's a really tough hole, and the wind was kind of, oddly enough, was gusting the last 4 or 5 holes for us. So kind of had an uncomfortable approach and tried to commit, but probably didn't hit my best shot. And I knew if I hit it left, I had plenty of green to work with, even though it was downhill, and I executed a great bunker shot, and obviously just lucky for it to actually go in.
We haven't gotten to talk to you pre-championship. When you first saw the course, just your overall kind of take on it and then how it suits your game?
Yeah, I played the U.S. Amateur here in 13. I missed the cut, so I only played 1 round. I didn't remember too much, to be honest. I remember being out here, I remember a few shots, but all I do remember is playing it and thinking it was the hardest course I'd ever played. So to be fair, I think the rough was probably even longer when we played the U.S. Amateur here, and I think that the setup it's very, very difficult, but I don't think you'll hear one player say that any part of it is unfair, which is a huge compliment to USGA to set it up that well. And obviously a compliment to the golf course to not have to really do too much to make the scores what they are. So, with that said, I really like the course. It's very challenging. I've just gone out with a strategy, frankly, to just try and make a par on every hole. Try not to get too greedy on shots that sometimes you're kind of licking your chops, but you just got to, rein it in a little bit and understand that basically every green in regulation's a win in the U.S. Open. And, fortunately was able to make a few birdies late in the round. But with that being said, if I had made 18 pars today, I would have probably been very happy as well.
We're going to go here to Christine.
Oh, I was covering that U.S. Open where you obviously made such a splash, and they were showing highlights. You may not know that from that. I think this tournament especially, there's that sense of kind of continuity, amateur to pro.
Yeah.
And it fascinates a lot of people. I'm curious what you think. That here you are again. Obviously, you've lived every day since then, but for many people, this is kind of like, oh, there he is again.
It's kind of interesting you say that. I was having a conversation with some staff in the locker room because I was asked the question, how many players played in the U.S. Amateur in 13 and are playing the U.S. Open this year? And apparently I had the highest number, and I guessed 20, but it was 22. But I think that tells you something about the amateur game. Having been, kind of a top amateur college player, probably sounded a bit confident or arrogant at the time, but I always felt like I could compete at this level. Maybe not necessarily win a major at that age, but to contend and be, near the top of the leaderboard, I think is very feasible. You see amateurs every year make the cut in the U.S. Open. You see tons of guys qualify. You see players that are 16, 18 years old qualify. It feels like every year now. I know at the time when I did it in 2012, I was probably one of the younger ones ever, but it does seem like the bar just keeps getting lower and lower and lower. I mean, guys are here year in and year out that are high school, college players, and it almost feels normal, doesn't it? So, no, I think the amateur game is the top amateurs in the world are your next Colin Morikawa's and Will Zalatoris and Scotty Scheffler's, and you know what I mean? 3 years ago, all those guys were your top amateur players, and here they are at the moment the top professional players. So I think it's really cool, like what the Golf Channel's done with broadcasting some more college golf. I think it's cool to showcase kind of the talent that's frankly here now, but seems like years ago, if you were out on the scene at 20, 25 years old, you were still really young, and now on the PGA Tour, it's a lot of young players playing incredibly good golf, and just a couple years ago, to your point, they were some of the top amateurs, right?
Brentley on your right.
You just mentioned 2012. It's been 10 years. If you were around a dinner table, what's one story that you kind of continually tell about that week?
I don't too much, to be honest.
Do you still watch some of do you have anything from that week that you still kind of hold on to, or any mementos? Or
Not necessarily. I mean, I know it's a big story and all that, but at the end of the day, it's a golf tournament. It's a golf tournament this week. It's a very difficult and prestigious golf tournament, but it's a golf tournament, and I think that's why, you notice really top players seem to perform really well in majors, is I don't think they make it much bigger than it is. They just kind of go and treat it like a really good golf tournament and prepare and try not to glorify it too much to where it becomes, a hindrance really. So I've always tried to do that. I try and treat all the tournaments in my preparation the same, and I try not to look back and dwell or get too excited about things in the past, to be honest. So, but yeah, I mean, the week was spectacular. It was kind of a blur at the time. I hadn't really played on that type of stage. But it's cool to look back now and understand, how much more comfortable I am sitting in front of you here after Friday than I was in a very similar position 10 years ago.
Were you nervous at all before those interviews as a high school kid playing in that? Or
Before the actual interviews?
Yeah.
No, I don't have an issue with interviews. I can talk to anybody. But no, I mean, the golf, absolutely. But that doesn't necessarily mean poor play. I think nerves are a great thing. I think we all have them at certain times. And, frankly, the best players can just perform at their best when they are nervous, right?
And then lastly about that week, did you prove anything to yourself that week? Or?
Yeah, kind of what I was saying in the previous question. I just think that, you look up to these players and this stage for so long. And once you're on it and on it consistently, I think it just becomes more normal. And I think that proved myself that week that maybe I wasn't capable at the moment, but I could get there. And I feel like I have.
Kevin?
What are you most proud of in your career so far, when you think of your career to this point?
That's a good question. I'm probably the most proud of my work ethic. The results have been peaks and valleys. I've played some good golf. I've played some really bad golf. But kind of through it all, I've really worked hard. And I think I've never lost belief in what I can do. And I've been really fortunate to have people around me that have, know what I'm capable of and have always helped me and been there for me when I've played well and played poorly. But yeah, I've always worked really hard. When I've played well, I've worked hard. When I've played crappy, I've worked hard. And that doesn't necessarily mean true hours on a golf course, but just real commitment to getting better. That's never wandered for me.
Beau, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks.